Most people don't realize this, but the first story you tell yourself about someone is rarely the truth. It's just your mind trying to fill in blanks as fast as possible. Emma used to believe she was good with people, not in a loud social way. More like she could sense what someone was like after a few minutes. She took pride in that. It made the world feel easier to navigate, less confusing, less risky. Because Emma had been wrong before about friends, about relationships, about trust. And each time it hurt, she promised herself she would get better at noticing the signs early. So she learned to judge quickly, not in a cruel way, in a careful way. If someone didn't smile much, Emma assumed they were unfriendly. If someone spoke with confidence, she assumed they were selfish. If someone seemed nervous, she assumed they weren't capable. Those thoughts felt like protection, a shield, and for a while, it worked. Then a new neighbor moved into the apartment across the hall. His name was Noah. Emma first saw him on a Monday evening, struggling with a heavy box near the stairs. She held the door for him. He gave a short nod without much eye contact and kept moving. That was all it took for Emma's mind to start writing the story. He's rude. He thinks he's too good to talk. He's one of those people who wants to be left alone. It wasn't anger. It was certainty. And certainty is powerful because it makes you stop looking. Over the next week, Emma noticed Noah more. He left early, returned late, and never spoke to anyone in the hallway. When other neighbors greeted him, he responded with short words and kept walking. He didn't seem interested in making friends. He didn't seem warm. Emma told herself, some people are just like that, and she moved on. But something about him kept pulling at her attention. Maybe it was because his silence felt personal, even though it wasn't. Or maybe it was because Emma had a habit of needing to understand people, especially the ones who didn't fit into her comfort zone. One evening, Emma came home tired from work. The elevator was broken, so she climbed the stairs slowly, carrying groceries. On the third floor, she saw Noah again. He was standing outside his door, searching his pockets, looking frustrated. Emma passed him and reached her own door. As she fumbled for her keys, she heard a quiet sound behind her, something like a quick, uneven breath. She glanced back. Noah had leaned against the wall, eyes closed, one hand pressed against his chest. His face looked pale, like he was trying to stay steady. For a moment, Emma froze. Her mind wanted to label it immediately. Overreacting. Maybe he's dramatic. Maybe he's trying to get attention. But another part of her, the part that still had kindness, pushed forward. "Are you okay?" she asked carefully. Noah opened his eyes. His voice was low. "Yeah, just give me a second," Emma waited. The hallway felt strangely quiet. After a pause, Noah stood straighter and forced a small smile. "Sorry, long day." Emma nodded and went inside, but her thoughts stayed in the hallway. That night, she couldn't sleep easily. She kept replaying the moment. The way he looked like he was holding something back. The way his smile didn't match his eyes. And slowly, something uncomfortable rose in her chest. What if I'm wrong about him? That question didn't feel small. It felt like pulling a thread from a sweater and realizing the whole thing might unravel. The next morning, Emma left early and found Noah in the stairwell again, moving slower than usual. He carried a small bag, like he was headed somewhere important. Without thinking too much, Emma spoke. "Hey, I'm Emma. We haven't really talked." Noah looked up. There was a brief hesitation, like he was deciding whether to let her in. "Noah," he said. They stood there in an awkward pause. Emma almost walked away. Her old certainty tried to return. But then she noticed something. Noah's hands were slightly trembling. Not from cold, from strain. Emma asked softly, "Are you dealing with something? You don't have to tell me. I just noticed you seemed off yesterday." Noah stared at the steps for a second. Then he exhaled. like he had been holding his breath for weeks. "My mom's sick," he said quietly. "I moved here because it's closer to the hospital. I'm there most days. I'm trying to keep it together." Emma felt her stomach drop. All those thoughts she had, rude, arrogant, unfriendly, collapsed in one moment. Noah continued, not in a dramatic way, just in a tired way. "I don't mean to ignore people. I just don't have much left in me lately. Talking feels like a luxury." Emma didn't know what to say at first, so she did the simplest thing. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "That sounds really heavy." Noah nodded, eyes still down. "It is." And then he left. Emma stood alone in the stairwell, feeling like the air had changed. That day, she went to work, but everything felt different. She saw people on the train and wondered what stories they carried. She heard a coworker speak sharply and wondered what pain might be underneath it. She thought about the way she had been so sure, so confident about someone's character when she didn't know anything about their life. And that's when the real realization arrived. Emma hadn't been judging Noah. She had been judging her own comfort, because it's easier to label someone as rude than to consider they might be hurting. It's easier to call someone cold than to admit they might be exhausted. Quick judgments protect you from the effort of understanding, but they also protect you from connection. That evening, Emma came home and noticed Noah's door slightly open. She heard quiet movement inside, like someone pacing. She didn't want to intrude. She didn't want to be the neighbor who suddenly acted kind out of guilt. So she did something small and simple. She wrote a note on a piece of paper. "If you ever need someone to pick up groceries or just sit quietly for a minute, I'm across the hall. No pressure." She placed it gently near his door and walked away. The next day, she found another note taped to her door. "Thank you. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that." Noah, Emma held the paper for a long time. Not because it was a big message, but because it was proof that her pause had mattered. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Noah didn't become best friends overnight. That wasn't the point. Their conversations were short. Sometimes just a few words in the hallway. Sometimes a quiet check-in. But Emma noticed something even more important. She became slower to judge everyone. When someone cut her off in traffic, she still felt irritation, but she didn't build a whole identity for them. When someone at work seemed distant, she asked a gentle question instead of making an assumption. When someone didn't respond the way she expected, she gave space for context. And with that shift, her life became calmer. Not because people were suddenly perfect, but because she stopped carrying the burden of constant certainty. Here's the lesson Emma learned, and maybe you need it too. Misjudging others too quickly doesn't just hurt them. It hardens you. It trains your mind to see the world in simple labels instead of human stories. And when you do that long enough, you start feeling disconnected, like no one understands you either. But the moment you pause, even for a second, the world opens. You don't have to trust everyone. You don't have to let everyone in. But you can leave room for the possibility that there's more happening than you can see. Because most people aren't difficult on purpose. Most people are carrying something. So the next time you feel that quick judgment rising, rude, lazy, cold, arrogant, pause. Ask yourself, what might I be missing? That one question can soften your mind. It can protect your peace. And sometimes, it can change someone's day without you even trying. If this story reached something in you, take a moment to like the video so more people can find it when they need it. And if you've ever misjudged someone and later felt humbled by the truth, share your experience in the comments. Someone reading it might realize they're not alone. And if there's a person in your life who's been judging too quickly, or someone who feels misunderstood, share this story with them. Sometimes, a quiet lesson is the one that stays with us the longest.